Hello, hello, hello. It's Andrew here, and welcome to the channel dedicated to software engineering. And this is a series of videos where I create a system which solves some of my problems. And let's go to a quick recap. What's it? Okay. Fortunately, you can see it. So what do I have to do? First of all, what kind of problem I'm solving? It's video generation for one of my YouTube channels. Right now it takes too much of my attention, and that's the reason why I decided to reanimate a project I used to have 6 years ago. It's about gathering some bits of data into one chunk of, let's say, video stream or array of images which can be assembled into video. I've solved it with some requirements. I defined requirements, what I want. Most crucial requirement is about its architecture. You can see it on the screen. It should be minimal. There should be one binary, one shared storage for some sort of backups or progress tracking. Obviously, it must be accessible through any device in that network. And it should have some sort of discovery mechanism. Obviously, I don't like things like Redis or database or whatever. So in here, there is no such thing. It's just binary, network, shared storage, and some notifications / statistics gathering stuff. I'm using Grafana and Telegram, but for now there are no modules, no requirements defined for alerts, statistics, what do I track. So that's what I'm going to do today. I need to understand what I want to track, what I want to count, and then define some sort of alerts. For example, what condition should be considered as a failure which deserves to be reported. And let's check it somewhere here. Previous stream I have stopped at the place where one big test should have been defined. Let me check. Yes, I have completed those stuff, so let's check. I have defined a few things. First of all, it was in functional testing. Testing functional test worker, I think it's here. No, pipeline test. Yeah, no. Yeah, this is the big test. So there was one case which took me to implement a few blocks in order to proceed the development. So what I wanted to do is just to create a few blocks. I don't need to create every block from this pipeline, but I want to create 2 or 3 blocks in order to define and implement everything what is necessary for the project to start work. And then in the end of development, I will create new blocks just because everything works. So unfortunately, there was a case when I had to test how it works when there are absent resources in one of the workers. So this is the last test I made. This pipeline, it has 4 different blocks. First block is HTTP request. It downloads image from somewhere. Second block, it's about let's add text to that image. Obviously there is text itself, font size, font color. I ignored position because it's by default somewhere. Then I have resize. So I need to resize this image to 50, 50. Here is the size. And the last, I need to blur this image to be some sigma. This is it. But what this test particularly does, it makes a few resources available at a few workers, and some of them are not available in other workers. So this one particularly, first worker has disabled blocks number 2. It cannot add text to image, and it has disabled block number 4. It cannot blur image. Yeah, text and blur. Second worker, it cannot perform HTTP requests as well as image resize. Let's say I have sort of LLM in that second worker, and I have moved it away from internet connection. It works only in local network. That's the reason why I needed this case, for example. And this is how it is done. I create 2 servers. I say that server 1, worker 1 has discovered worker 2, and vice versa. Server 2 has discovered worker 1 via multicast. After that, I'm checking that here is channel which being notified when this processing happens. I have implemented this logic as well because I need some tests to pass. I don't want to add time sleep. I want simply read the channel. And this channel was implemented like quite straightforward. Let's check. It is set notification channel. No. Yeah. Here it is. There was Gordin. Yeah. So every time a server starts, whatever processing happens, it will be passed to debug, and obviously there will be some notification to the channel if I have passed that channel. Otherwise, it won't happen. And this is the trick. I had a deadlock here. The deadlock happened on this. So it used to be like this. And deadlock happened in this case when channel, obviously it was not buffered. It used to wait. Right now there are no deadlocks. I'm quite happy about it. But let's go down. Here is the place where I disable blocks at server 1. I do the same with server 2. And then I say, okay, first request sent by somewhere. It's about, let's go to this pipeline. Let's pick first block. And here is your URL. I do not pass bytes. I don't, it's not unit test, it's functional test. And then I say, by the way, there should have been some sort of mock. Yeah, here it is. I create image bytes with some predefined test helper, and then I start mock server, which yields absolutely valid content type image PNG. It says status OK, HTTP status, and then it writes bytes to that particular connection socket. This is quite important because I have found a few interesting places in the code. I'll highlight it a bit later, but I have introduced a function to convert JSON schema types into Golang types. It was interesting. So I have this request, I have the URL, it's a URL of that mock server, and then I send process start request. It just starts processing. After that, I'm checking that obviously there were no errors, everything was fine. First processing has been completed. Here it is, processing status completed. Second processing was not completed because this resource, this block is disabled in this server/worker. And I'm checking that status of this processing is transferred. After that, I'm going to second server. I'm checking, hello second server, do you have transferred processing? And here I ensure that this processing has been completed. And I also check some sort of ID of this processing. What else? After that, I'm checking that my last block, another block has been triggered, and I'm checking that it was transferred back to worker 1 because worker 1 has this ability to manipulate image. I'm checking worker 1 again, that it has completed this processing. And after that, I'm checking that worker 1 cannot do last operation, this one image blur, because it was disabled in this test definition. Image blur was disabled. So in the end of this test, I'm checking that it was transferred back to worker 2, and worker 2 has completed this processing. That was most interesting test because it highlighted a few interesting things, such as type conversion. So let's assume I have in this test, I have URL. So I pass URL of an image somewhere. Maybe it's inside of this shared storage, but I passed it just as a string. I do not pass it as downloaded images. I pass it as a string, and let's say here, image blur. Maybe image resize would be better for understanding. Here, image bytes. I'm casting input data as byte array. I do not work with it as a strings. And by the way, first block, it should be get a HTTP request. Let me check. Yeah, it's requesting data, saving it to shared storage. And after that, this block acquires byte array because the mechanism, as obviously I have defined, it is save whatever was downloaded to the file with content type or whatever it was from bytes. I don't care about extension of this file. I track bytes. After that, next block in the pipeline will work with opened file. It won't work with a string or whatever it was. It will open file treated as JSON schema requires, just like here. It's a string and it has format file. And I have a function which transfers this into correct Golang types. It is in helpers and JSON schema. So it was quite fun because I had so much errors. Unfortunately, I had a test. So here it happens. If I have string in JSON schema, I'm checking, is it file? If it is file, I'm casting it to some types. It might be byte buffer, it might be string or byte array. So that's what I'm doing. I also switch case some things such as integer, number, boolean, and I'm trying to cast it into Golang types. Obviously, I have case array. Fortunately, at current definition of this whole project, there are no arrays. None of my blocks are working with arrays, because if I map some data as array, let's go. Oh, I have this. Let me find array of map string. I had a comment somewhere. Yeah, here. So if my JSON schema says type array, let's check, it should be somewhere here. Input type object, no. Cannot search here. Yeah. If my input config says type array, I simply make a list of inputs, and then I instantiate each block for this input. And here is how it's done. If I have this array, it will be a list of maps. So let's assume input was array of 2, list of URLs. Like this. And a list of what's there, some text. Yeah. So if I had this kind of input with this kind of config, input type array, I will assemble them into this function, and each of input will be sequentially iterated through. But if I had no definition as type array, but I had some sort of array, I will pick only first element. It's quite solution, but it says something is saved. What was here? So this is how I resolved array types, and that was the only real challenge, I think, for this project. After that, I have implemented embedding. I have embedded fonts into this project. So I have config fonts, just a few functions, and I have a folder with fonts. It's some sort of open source stuff. Those fonts now they are a part of this binary. So if I visit /blocks, let's open Firefox. Yeah. Let's check what port do I have. It's 8080. Oh, I think I have updated that port. Where is it? Make file. Make start. No, it should be 8000. Come on. So let's go back. Nice. It didn't yield anything about port. I'm happy about it because I have updated worker start. Maybe that's the reason I don't have HTTP interface. Let's go to server go. Yeah. Yeah. So I have 8080 port. Here it is. Let's go to schema. Oh, blocks. Yeah. There should be block with a resize image. Yes, and there should be input with fonts. No. Here it is. It's add text to image. Let's increase raw data, pretty print, and add text. Here it is. It's a schema with some properties, but what's important, I have font. There is default value, and there is a list of fonts which are inside of folder, but I have a function which simply loads all fonts to the binary it embeds. And then I have simple mapping into memory, so it should be quite fast. And that's it. That's what I used to do. So right now, let me do the thing. Let's start the server again. I think I have made some sort of mistake with the ready channel. Yep. It's not coming here. Okay, I'll deal with it later. But what's important is I have completed those also block hopping. And today is September 28. I would like to define metrics, alerts, and what's important. It's about tracking pipeline processing. So how to do it? First of all, I would like to track everything what happens in binary itself. It means I need some sort of telemetry. Let's go to Firefox. I'll move it to the right. Yeah. So, first of all, let's go link. It used to have some sort of open telemetry. Back in Python, it was quite straightforward. I need to install a library and then provide a new relic, for example. It will assemble every function. How much time did it take? Let's check. It used to new relic. I think like this. So I could have gathered some. Okay, let's open it in new window. In new tab. Yeah, so I could have provided some input, and it's quite straightforward. It's aggregating everything, and then I can write a new relic query language request to have some sort of graphs, alerts, etc. But what's important, I need to send some custom graphs, custom stuff. And for me, it will be quite important to track that pipeline used to work with worker 1, then it was transferred to worker 2 because there should be a reason of this transferring. But for now, it will be enough to track that server has passed request somewhere, then that somewhere HTTP API has acquired that it processed or passed it further. That's what I would like to do. But I also need to track timings. Obviously, I need to track how long function takes, because there are a few problems I have right now. So those problems are, it should be in helper JSON schema, the function was named. Yeah. So for each block, when I meet some sort of property, when the property reference that take data from that block because it has already processed, and here I can have this cast function. That function obviously is not optimized, it's just written as is. And if I see that it's using whole schema of this block. So for each property, it will run through block JSON schema obviously it's not correct. It should not run just a schema, but it should run some sort of optimized whatever it is. Is this schema string? Yeah, it's a map string. It should be pointer to somewhere. This cast itself, it's also map, which has whatever it is. I need to understand how much time does it take to run through this function itself. And this function gathers data into arrays. This place might be a bottleneck, and I need to be sure that it's worth of optimizing, because for me it works. And that means I don't need to introduce some complexity with Prometheus, like time start. Then I have this function, then I should log and calculate difference between times. I don't want it. I want to have install library, gather telemetry, be happy. And that brings me to a case when I need to scope what's there in Golang. And I have now open telemetry. We have some sort of standard for this. So let's check what's there. Oh, getting started. Beautiful. What do we have? This page out on getting started. Open telemetry. Oh, beautiful. You will learn how to instrument with simple application manually, such as traces, metrics, and logs. I have logging, but that logging is about errors most of all. Obviously, there will be panics. They are already logging. As for the traces, it's interesting because I don't have traces. So let's assume I have JSON. So it's just like my processing. It has some dates, attributes, and I have not made it to track which worker it goes to, but let's keep it as this. I would like to scope. Okay. Trace ID. Good. I have processing ID, which is the same. So they are encapsulating stuff. Tracer provider. I need to understand what kind of effort will it take. Attributes. Attribute back. Nice. Sort of. Name. Okay. So in my case, I see those events here. My processing does not have any events or anything, so it's possible to have the state assembled every time I'm passing, transferring processing from one worker to another. I might have add some body to request to ensure that this is the worker which transfers processing to unknown server. It's multicast. Then that server which acquired connection can say, okay, I received that, and I'll mark myself as the one who received that processing. So it's a good idea, because I was wondering how to mark that processing. But what I want to see, it's a bit of code examples. It's traces, okay. I can understand it. Metrics, that's good. Captured at the runtime, okay. Metric event, which consists measurement itself. Okay, good. Let me move this window. At runtime, yes, I need some runtime data, but it's more about that how much time did it take to process this pipeline request, but it's not a big deal. What do you have? Counter. That's good. Asynchronous counter. So this might be similar to Prometheus. Fortunately, I never worked with Prometheus. I only read documentation and examples, but I remember there are counters. Why fortunately is because I have time to dedicate finding some interesting stuff there. Up down counter, okay. Synchronous, okay. Gauge, okay. Histogram, okay. Aggregation. Mm-hmm. CPU memory usage. Okay, it's good by the of a process. I need to report this data about blocks. So let's assume I had pipeline with n number of operations, and I need to understand that imagery size, for example, took too much time. It was executed using CPU, but I wanted to use GPU, and that will highlight a problem. But okay, it's not a big deal. Current active requests, views. Stable, nice. Okay, log analyzer. Okay, nice. I'm not sure, but it's possibly obviously I will need to track those logs for panics, logs for application. It's on bottom, but not big deal. I have structured logs, fortunately. It's only in JSON, also in JSON, but panics are not. Okay, what I need. I remember about compiling. But it's quite interesting. So I can compile with debug symbols, I can compile without them. Will telemetry work in both cases? I need to understand it. Measuring user experience, okay. Toolchain performance. So go telemetry on. I think it's a bit different. Yeah, I think it's a bit different. But what I want is I want to implement OpenTelemetry to gather data. Okay. So much dependencies. Oi. What should I do in that case? So I have some sort of function. Shutdown functions, so much of them. What do they do? So they have new propagator, new trace provider. They're installing everything. Logger, okay. Wait, is that a separate file? Yeah, it's separate file. Golang file. Okay, then what do? They instantiate it, they shut down properly, okay. Start server, okay, fine. Where do they attach it? So I have auto shutdown. Where do they instantiate? So they say, okay, route tag inside of handler. Well, that's already looking a bit menacing. And then they say, that's quite tough. Add custom instrumentation, okay. That's better. So they gather metrics. That's already too much, I think. Yeah, that's a bit overkill. So let's do the following. First of all, I'll define what is necessary. After that, I'll make some scopes, and next stream and Monday I'll try to figure out on the stream what tools would be better fitting for this solution. So first of all, I need to track. Before that, this project executes pipelines at my use case. In my case, it's once a day in the morning, but I need to make it possible to run every time. Those calculations, they are on demand. I don't need to make it crazy optimized because it's horizontal scaling. So if I have problems with time or GPU, I can simply buy another GPU, have some stupid hardware for the GPU, and I can simply plug flash drive with binary. It will announce itself, it will start working on its own. So I don't need optimized stuff. I need to track what kind of metrics like this. I don't need response time for HTTP handlers. First of all, I was thinking about it, but if I check those workers pipelines here, I have start function, start pipeline. Not here. Come on, it's test, it's interface. Yeah, here it is. This pipeline start, it only executes here. It makes checks and then it makes just checks. After that, it executes the body of processing inside of Go function. So, and then it simply returns some processing ID. I cannot measure processing time in HTTP handler. So I need to measure pipeline processing time across so if my processing is transferred to another worker, that also must be noted. That means pipeline processing time across workers. After that, pipeline transferring so this one will be useful because processing, I think, where is that schema? Here. The request itself, it contains only pipeline and block. It doesn't have any trace inside. With that said, if I will pass trace inside, in here, let's say events, or no, let's call it trace. It should be the list of pipeline processing trace. If it's a list, it is obviously, it can be sorted. Processing ID, it's common everywhere, I don't need it. But what I need is worker ID, which is UID, of course, start time, or even better, start time, yeah. Time, and time is important. After that, I need to have processing state. But this processing state, it comes from, where is it? Come on. Have I? Yeah, here it is. We have a few states, but in here I can declare as interfaces pipeline processing state. Yeah. So at each stage, I will know when this worker started working with this processing, which means this block. When it stopped, what was the state of this processing? Maybe it encountered an error or transferred it. With that extra property in the schema, I will solve a problem tracking processing across workers, tracking transfers, and obviously I can accumulate those timestamps and figure out how much time did it take to process everywhere, including this worker managed to process 3 blocks within 10 seconds, for example. So this is the solution. Let's write it down, how it is done. Yeah, it does insert. So processing is done. After that, I need to ensure that every error is reported to logs. Oh, it's not metrics, errors. It's a bit different stuff. It's, let's call it alerts. Yep. This binary does not write log files. It's writing everything to std out. So I need to implement logging. Let's say error log and info log. Log level, I think. Two different. Yeah, that should be a solution. What? Maybe std out and std error. What else I want to gather metrics from? I don't need HTTP request. I need discovery. So when worker discovers something, it should report. How often some worker meets new workers. So let's assume my binary somewhere, it starts, announces itself, or yes, announces itself, and then in the middle of processing, it has panics and dies. After that, it starts again, announces itself again, telling I have GPU. It gets the same request, but with different pipeline. It's like, let's have this prompt on this LLM, and then it just panics and dies. That means every worker in the system will report that we have tracked new fellas 10 times within 10 seconds. That means there is a problem somewhere. Obviously, I will have it in alerts, but I need to have some worker discovery. Let's say how often one worker has discovers. Yeah, let's make it 1 minute window. Within. Yeah, that would be correct. I need worker discovery. Obviously, each worker must declare how much free space does it have in local storage. But there also a problem because it's not a deal for the binary. Let's check. I'm afraid that so I need to call. Yeah, it's not a problem of the binary to track how much storage is used. No, I don't need it. It's a problem of operational system. It should have some sort of agent of New Relic or Grafana, Graphite, whatever, and it should simply have some cron tabs there. Maybe, yeah, right now I don't need it. What else? Block discovery. Which blocks were not found when they enabled. So I have a block, I wouldn't call it discovery, block detector, yeah. Block detection. Which blocks were not detected when they are enabled. So each block might be disabled somewhere, or it might be marked as enabled, but for some reason they are not detected. Example, I have OpenAI integration, which takes some text to speech, I think, something else, but what's important, I did not disable this block at Raspberry Pi, for example. What happens there? Because I don't have credentials, detection will mark this block as disabled. So when binary starts its Raspberry Pi, first of all, it goes to check, I have OpenAI block for compilations marked as enabled. It will go to check, credentials, they're missing. Let's mark this block as disabled. And in multicast DNS, it will mark this block as absent. But for some reason, why there are no credentials? Maybe they have been rotated and no longer working. It is possible. So that means each worker, each binary should gather that kind of statistics when the block became unavailable. Also, it should be included into alerts, block detection, must alert, when detection failed. I needed, yeah, it will be important. What else? Obviously, HTTP, if I have no internet connection, it should alert binaries. Block detection. I also have another registry. Let's check. Pipeline block data. Of course. So if pipeline has saved some data, I need to have alert when this data cannot be saved. Obviously, there are errors in logs, but I need alerts. Maybe I can do better. I need to alert everything which was logged as an error. But this one, it's not logged as an error. I can add it here. Maybe this one. Yes, everything for yesterday error will be straight ahead alerted. In here I have storage with block data. No, I don't need that. Pipeline registry. What's here? Workers. Processing registry. Yes, there is nothing. But in worker registry, I can check that there were some number of workers discovered. Should I alert new workers? Right now I don't need it. And I think that's all. It's important to have timings for transfers, states, cross-worker communication. Because I have this, it also solves cross-worker communication issue. So I can track what happened there. I can match it with some worker has transferred processing because reason. Maybe I should make it here. State reason, which is string. Yeah. So let's mark it as yeah, that should be correct. So if there was an error, some sort of error, or block for some reason marked itself as not available, whatever, also, it's fine. There should be. So if something happens inside of block, some sort of error, that means, should I restart this processing? Yeah. So let's go to blocks and check. HTTP block. It should have retries, I think. There is timeout, response. Let's check. No, there are no retries, so whatever happens in... I mean it. What if error happens in block? Should we have retry? Should we have retry counter? With that said, this processing state should also have state reason, retry counter. So I might track that HTTP. Obviously, it can be retried. Image blur, it happens in the server in runtime. It doesn't go anywhere. You don't need to have retries. OpenAI, it should have retries. But for now, let's treat every error as fatal and let's have a restart. Yeah, I don't need, right now I don't need that. What else? I think that's all. Let's go to architecture and check what's there. Have I missed anything? So we have worker which announces its presence. Yeah. If shit happened, alerts. Multicast DNS will yesterday error. Yeah, it's fine. Shared storage, if something happened while writing to shared storage, there will be alert. Nice. About that communication, we'll build API, its metrics, share results, its metrics and alerts. Grafana will collect that stuff. Read media for moderation. Aha. It's a block with Telegram. I think it should be just metrics. Yeah, I don't have anything except this stuff. Fortunately, this stream is not getting any overtime, so I must wrap it up. What will I do tomorrow? Tomorrow is my birthday. But on Monday I have a stream, so on Monday I will try to scope what kind of Golang available library will take minimal amount of efforts to implement this. Because let's go to Firefox. To be honest, I don't like this. So to introduce, to cover with telemetry this function, it takes, I don't understand, I need only 2 or 3 of them, but it takes to implement that. Then I say meter provider, shut down functions, obviously. I should add meter provider to shut down. Logger, yep. And then 1, 2, it's too much. Like, sorry. It will be cheaper for me to implement new HTTP request or UDP request to Grafana carbon collector, for example, or Prometheus. I can implement Prometheus runtime collection, maybe even store that to file system for case of binary panics. So I will need to understand what it takes for these requirements to assemble into something small, minimum efforts and maximum visualization. Because what I have now, it's, let's go to Grafana, I have it here. Yeah, admin, local Grafana. So I have local Grafana with empty data source. Configuration, yeah. What do I have here? Prometheus, I have installed it into here. I have Raspberry Pi. This is what right now serves Grafana. It lives in a cup. It also powers, I don't know, it's Mini. No, it's not powers Mini IO. It's Prometheus. Yep. My Windows has problems with time. So let's solve the problem. How would I do it? Okay. Date and time, I think now. Yeah, no errors, beautiful. So I have some sort of Prometheus in here, but it's just empty. What I also have, graphite. Okay, I used to work with it. So I will need to, why is it so, yeah, now it's better. So I will need to analyze those requirements, map it to whatever graphite right now accepts. It's all, Grafana has data sources. Maybe it will be easier to make it with Prometheus. Maybe it's not. InfluxDB it requires, for some reason, API keys. What else? Elasticsearch? No. For sure, no. It's overkill. Distributed tracing, yes, I would love to have it, but so that's what I will do in Monday. I don't promise completed results, but what I think should be done is to implement this list of traces, what happened when transfer of processing triggers, and that will be it. Yeah, I'm close to the end. That end would be UI. I want to have UI because right now pipeline looks like this, and yeah, it looks like big JSON. If I want to rearrange those blocks, it will be copy paste here. Of course, I don't understand how it works, but I want to have UI where I can simply move one block, make condition. Yeah, that's all. So see you in a few days. Thanks for watching and bye bye.